There was a time when Jungkook had begged for Taehyung's love. When he had fought to be seen, to be enough, to be worthy. But the Jungkook no longer existed. The world had tried to break him. Taehyung had let it break him. But instead of shattering, Jungkook had sharpened his edges, reforged himself into something untouchable. And tonight, the world would see him. The grand hall was filled with Seoul's elite, business tycoons, CEOs, socialites, all gathered for the charity gala hosted by Namjoon's company. Jungkook stood among them, exuding a quiet confidence, his black tux perfectly tailored to his frame. His once soft eyes now held something unreadable, something dangerous. He wasn't here to prove himself. He was here because he already had. And as he accepted a glass of champagne from a passing waiter, laughter rang through the hall, familiar, too familiar. His grip tightened around the glass. Because standing near the entrance, dressed in an all-black designer suit, was Kim Taehyung. For the first time in months, their eyes met. And Taehyung froze. Jungkook simply raised his glass to his lips, expression unreadable, before looking away as if Taehyung was just another face in the crowd. As if he no longer mattered. Taehyung had expected Jungkook to be here. What he hadn't expected was this version of him. Gone was the wide-eyed, soft-hearted boy who had once looked at Taehyung like he was his entire world. In his place stood a man with sharp edges and untouchable confidence, a man who no longer belonged to him. Taehyung's chest tightened as he watched Jungkook effortlessly engage with Seoul's elite, his smile charming, his laughter light. It was effortless. As if Taehyung had never meant anything. As if he had never broken him. His mother's words echoed in his mind. He was nothing without you. But looking at Jungkook now, Taehyung realized how wrong she had been. Jungkook had become everything despite him. And for the first time, real fear crept into Taehyung's heart. Because what if he had lost Jungkook forever? The confrontation Taehyung didn't think. He just moved. He made his way through the crowd, stopping only when he was right in front of Jungkook. Jungkook turned, meeting his gaze with an icy indifference that sent a chill down Taehyung's spine. Taehyung, a beat of silence. Then Jungkook smiled, a polite, distant thing that didn't reach his eyes. It's been a while. Taehyung's throat tightened. Can we talk? Jungkook raised a brow, tilting his head slightly. Talk? He let out a low chuckle, swirling the champagne in his glass. What exactly do we have to talk about? Hyung? The way Jungkook said Hyung, mocking, detached, felt like a knife to the chest. Taehyung inhaled sharply. Because as far as I remember, Jungkook continued smoothly, there's nothing left to say. You made yourself very clear, didn't you? Taehyung's hands curled into fists. Jungkook, please. Jungkook's smile vanished. Don't. The coldness in his voice was something Taehyung had never heard before. For the first time, he realized, Jungkook wasn't the same. He had changed. And maybe, just maybe, he wasn't his Jungkook anymore. Jungkook walked away. Just like that. No hesitation. No second glance. No lingering emotions. The moment his back disappeared into the crowd, Taehyung felt the crushing weight of his own mistake settle over him like a suffocating wave. He had lost him. And the worst part? It wasn't Jungkook's loss. It was his. You looked pathetic. Namjoon's voice came from behind, laced with quiet disappointment. You should have thought about this when you let your mother ruin everything. Taehyung clenched his jaw. Do you think I don't regret it? His voice wavered. He exhaled shakily. I thought I was doing the right thing, Namjoon scoffed. The right thing for who? Because it sure as hell wasn't for Jungkook. Taehyung had no answer. Because Namjoon was right. And now, it was too late. He should have felt satisfaction. Watching Taehyung stand there, frozen, regret plain on his face, it should have felt like justice. But it didn't. Because at the end of the day, Taehyung's regret didn't undo the past. And Jungkook? He had learned to stop waiting for apologies that wouldn't change anything. As he slipped into the private lounge area, he exhaled a slow breath, rolling his shoulders to shake off the encounter. But just as he reached for his drink, someone slid into the seat beside him. You handled that well. Jungkook glanced up, his brows lifting as his friend, Seokjin, smirked knowingly. I expected more drama, Seokjin mused, sipping his wine. Maybe a slap? A heated argument? But no, you went for the cold and untouchable act. Very effective. Jungkook huffed a quiet laugh. He doesn't deserve my anger, Seokjin's smirk faltered. And yet, you're still affected. Jungkook didn't reply. Because Seokjin wasn't wrong. Even after everything, Taehyung still had the power to make him feel. And Jungkook hated that. Taehyung barely made it back home before the emotions crashed over him. His hands trembled as he loosened his tie, his breaths coming in sharp, shallow gasps. It hurt. It hurt in a way he had never expected, this gnawing, hollow ache that sat heavy in his chest. Jungkook had moved on. Not just in words, not just in actions, but in his heart. And Taehyung? Taehyung was still stuck in the past, in the what-ifs, in the what have I done? He sank onto the couch, pressing the heels of his hands into his eyes. For the first time, he let himself break. Because he had finally realized, he had let go of the best thing that had ever happened to him. And now, he might never get it back. Jungkook's warning a few days later, the inevitable happened. Taehyung called. Jungkook stared at the screen, fingers hovering over the decline button. A part of him wanted to ignore it, to let Taehyung sit in his own regrets. But another part of him, the part that still remembered late-night whispers, soft touches, and the way love had once felt so easy, wanted to hear his voice. So, he answered. Jungkook. Taehyung's voice was quiet, almost uncertain. Jungkook remained silent. A pause. A shaky inhale. I made a mistake. Jungkook let out a slow exhale, eyes darkening. Yes, you did. I need to talk to you, Taehyung admitted. Please. Jungkook closed his eyes for a brief moment before speaking. There's nothing to talk about, he said, voice calm but sharp. You made your choice, Hyung. Now live with it. And before Taehyung could say another word, Jungkook hung up. Because some doors, once closed, were never meant to be reopened. Jungkook had hung up on him. Not angrily. Not with bitterness. But with finality. And somehow, that hurt more than any harsh words could have. Taehyung stood in his apartment, the silence pressing in on him like a weight. His mind was in chaos, his heart racing as he stared at his phone. He had never been ignored by Jungkook before. Even when they had fought in the past, even when things had been bad, Jungkook had never cut him off so cleanly. But this wasn't the same Jungkook. This was a man who had changed. And if Taehyung didn't do something soon, he would lose him for good. You've been distracted, Seokjin noted as he poured another drink. Jungkook huffed. No, I haven't. Jin raised an eyebrow. Really? So that explains why you've been checking your phone every 10 minutes, Jungkook scowled, setting his phone down on the table a little too forcefully. I'm not checking my phone, Jin smirked. Right. Jungkook exhaled sharply, leaning back in his chair. Even if I was, it wouldn't mean anything. Taehyung doesn't matter anymore. Jin studied him for a moment. Then, he simply said, if that were true, you wouldn't be so worked up. Jungkook clenched his jaw. I just don't like unfinished business, Jin shrugged. Then finish it. Jungkook narrowed his eyes. What do you mean meet him? Jin said simply. Tell him exactly how badly he messed up. Make sure he feels it. And then? Walk away for good. Jungkook considered it. Maybe it was time to put an end to this once and for all. The meeting Taehyung had barely slept. When Jungkook had texted him, just a single location and time, his heart had nearly stopped. And now, as he sat in the quiet, upscale cafe, his hands wouldn't stop trembling. Then, the door opened, and Jungkook walked in. He was dressed sharply, his presence commanding, his expression unreadable. For a second, Taehyung couldn't breathe. And when Jungkook sat across from him, crossing his arms, Taehyung realized just how much he had changed. This was the Jungkook who used to look at him with love and devotion. This was a man who no longer needed him. Taehyung swallowed hard. Thank you for coming. Jungkook leaned back in his seat. Say what you need to say. Taehyung hesitated. Then, he took a deep breath. I made a mistake. Jungkook didn't react. Taehyung's chest tightened. I shouldn't have listened to my mother. I shouldn't have let her control my decisions. His voice broke slightly. I hurt you, and I regret it every single day. Jungkook's gaze remained cold. And what do you want me to do with that regret? Taehyung exhaled shakily. I just want another chance. A silence stretched between them. Then, Jungkook let out a quiet chuckle, but there was no humor in it. A chance, he repeated, shaking his head. Hyung, you threw me away like I was nothing. You let me suffer alone. And now, you want me back? Taehyung's hands curled into fists. I never thought you were nothing, but you let me believe it, Jungkook said, voice sharp. Taehyung flinched. Jungkook exhaled. Then, in a quieter voice, he said, I love you, Taehyung. And you broke me. A lump formed in Taehyung's throat. Jungkook, but I won't let you break me again. Taehyung froze. Jungkook stood up, his expression unreadable. I hope you find happiness, Taehyung. But it won't be with me. And just like that, Jungkook walked away, leaving Taehyung behind, drowning in the weight of his own regrets.